Welcome to our iLeverage huddle and training, March 17th, 7 to 8 p.m. I'm going to try to wrap this up in time. And let me see here. I always like to do a quick recap of what we did last week. And like I said, last week had a lot of slides, but I just want to go over and kind of give everyone the same mindset that was delivered then, because it was such a strong message, right? We talked about the facts about the middle market and the best practices. The facts, I want everyone to be reminded that the middle market of the United States is vastly underserved, and it's also uninsured. And the middle market has also doubled over the past 50 years. Imagine, and that middle market consists of 52% of the adults in the United States. Okay, which is nuts because it's doubled over the past 50 years, but less life insurance policies are sold today than there were 50 years ago. So there's a discrepancy there. And that happens because there's a lot of the insurance agents back then are retiring now, right? They're retiring now. So there's less insurance professionals, and maybe we're just not delivering. Maybe we're spending too much time thinking or getting too complicated. Of course, there's no door-to-door knocking, but are we actually being noble enough to reach out to those we care about? And also, are we training, right? Which we do, but I know on your own, you should be maybe practicing objections. You should be practicing your product, right? Mastering your craft. And if you have a team or another agent that you collaborate with on a frequent basis, maybe it's a message of role playing. Okay, so that's what we went over last week. And here's another few slides about that, right? We talked about, I like this. How do you look or personally perceive this discrepancy that we're dealing with right now? Half of the policies, less life insurance policies sold today than 50 years ago. It's either a crisis or a huge opportunity. Personally, I see it as a huge opportunity. But what's the reality? The reality is, I believe, based on my studies, and many of you might agree or might disagree, is that we don't have a conversion problem. What we have is a closing problem, quite frankly. Right? Sometimes we tend to dance around the topic, but we're afraid to ask for the sale, right? Or maybe we don't know how to ask. So that's why we train every week. And if there's a topic of weakness on your end that you want us to expound on and develop you further on, please reach out to me or to the leadership. And so it comes across and it becomes a topic of training on our Wednesdays and maybe other days as well. Okay, so this is what I left the team with last week. Becoming an expert at something comes at a price, and that price is a combination of time and effort. And you've heard me say this before, if you're relying on your 32 hours or your 52 hours of life and health pre-licensing to carry you throughout the year, it's not going to happen. You need to put in the time and the effort. And also, if you're in your first year, that's a year where it's challenging because not many agents see the fruit of their investments a lot of times, because you're not seeing renewals, you're not seeing maybe large contract clients, your name or your image is not branded fully yet. So give yourself some patience for that first year. It says here, getting to the top of the mountain in your industry starts with one step in that direction. You must plot out what small activities you can do daily that will help you towards mastery. I'll tell you what one of my activities that I do daily is I look at my list of names. I do, because for some reason, if I might not act on every name on that list, but what it does is just expands my mind saying, wow, I have a market. Or if I don't have a market, it's like, wow, I need to build this thing. And the good thing is that we have alternative methods to building a market, right? We have lead generation. We can purchase leads. You can ask the team here, who do you use for your leads? Or you can develop organic leads, and we can teach folks how to do that, or how to network properly or professionally. So something to think about. And now let's start tonight's training. Tonight's training is might be basic, it might be new to some of us, but I feel it's always a great way, a great concept to deliver in any case, because this might always be your presentation component when you're sitting down with a client. And whether it's through a presentation deck like what you see in front of you, or verbally, or on a chicken scratch on a napkin, I mean, you got to be able to deliver the content nonetheless. Okay, so here we go. Let's get this rolling. Let's be clear. If you're like most Americans, you've heard of the 401k. Index Universal Life, the IUL, on the other hand, is sometimes a mystery to the average American, because Americans are, I won't say, our country is so, sometimes they haven't kept up with the trends. We know that. We sit down with folks and they say, well, I have a whole life. I said, great. Do you know when the whole life started? You know, we started talking about the 50s, the 60s, whole life was popular. The 70s and the 80s and the 90s, it evolved from the universal life to the variable universal life, and then on to the index universal life. So now we are at the, you know, the 2020-21 model of the Tesla, which is the IUL. Okay. And I know clients always say, well, my money is doing this in the 401k, aren't they the same thing? But I always let them know that there are differences. But how do we deliver that? We deliver that by delivering the concept that you're going to learn tonight. And hopefully some of you have seen this before. Okay, here we are, the 401k, right? The 401k, how do we know it's called? Why do we know it's called the 401k? Because it gets its name from a tax code that it's tied to. And most people get the 401k because they get it through their job, or if they're self-employed, they can get the self 401k, the solo 401k. But how does it work? A 401k takes pre-tax contributions, money that hasn't been taxed yet. So it's usually out of your paycheck, hasn't been taxed yet, and it's put into a vehicle, right? Which that vehicle experiences what we call stock market volatility. That means you're going to participate in the gains of the market, but you're also going to participate on the downside of the market. That's how a 401k works. And it's going to do that for the life of the 401k for as long as you have it. When it comes time to deplete that 401k in terms of a withdrawal, sometimes a loan, but a withdrawal typically at the point of retirement, it's going to be taxed as income, right? And the scary part about 401ks is that they can be subject to probate. Right? If you don't know what probate is, go ahead and write it down. I want you to Google it. And I also want you to Google, why would a 401k be subject to probate? Okay, it's tied to having a will and trust and having all the right documents in place. Should you pass away or something happen before, should you die before the 401k is depleted, right? But here's the structure, the outlay of the 401k, the rules that it's tied to. I mean, it's tied to the 59.5 rule, meaning that if you take any money out in the form of a withdrawal prior to age 59.5, you're going to pay a 10% penalty. On top of that, that penalty reflects as an example, 100,000, you give Uncle Sam $10,000. Plus, you're going to have to pay federal and state taxes on it, as you see in the second box here. Right? Then you're also going to have required minimum distributions mandated by the government, right? And if you don't do it in time, now the age is 72, and I think they're even going to bump it up further based on what I've been reading. But if you don't start taking your RMDs out, you can get penalized for it. It varies, but we typically use the example of 50% because that's quite common. But think about that. If you had an IRA or a 401k worth 200,000 and you didn't start taking money out of it by age 72, you could be paying a penalty. 50% of your distribution would be given back to Uncle Sam. So think about that. Think about your clients and educate them on that. And I hope this is also prompting you to learn a little bit more. You're not going to learn everything here. I'm delivering the concept. But if you want to get into the details, that requires a good sit down. Hey, what happens in this case? What happens in this case? Maybe just Google the crap out of it, right? That's what I did. I did everything I could to learn about the 401k because I owned one. It was 2000. 2007, 2008, I remember the story. We were driving to our architect office. I was an architect in Fremont, and my fellow commuting buddy we were talking about taking a withdrawal. We had nice six figures in each of our 401ks. He was gonna get his wife a Beamer, take a loan on it because it was less than whatever he could get at the car dealership or the bank. And then I was gonna take a loan on mine to go get a boat. And we got to the office and we sit back to back. And I looked at my Fidelity account and I said, whoa, this is crazy. It's like almost half of it's gone. And he goes, hey, is this a joke? And we turned around, I called Fidelity and it says, well, sir, if you haven't been tracking the market, all this happened, it's crashed, And I just lost, I guesstimated about 42% of my 401k. And it happened over the course of a week, I think, but it just kept going down and down and down. And ultimately, it stabilized, but still, I never recovered from that. Actually, I'm sorry, I did. It took about 11 years. Okay, so that's the 401k mechanism here. That's how it works. Pre-tax contributions, and it goes into the market, subject to the gains and the losses. Okay, now on the flip side, we have the IUL. I see a question that might have popped up here. Oh, we want to record the Zoom. Oh, shoot, I didn't record it. Sorry, Mo. Mo, give it a class on this. I'll share my slides with you. Sorry, I turned it off. So on the other side of it here is we have the IUL, right? And we all know the IUL, I assume, right? The Index Universal Life is a life insurance product that us agents are trained on. We might own. We're very familiar with that in that sense. But let me read it off here. As the market has suffered over the last decade, traditional investment products have become unattractive. With the IUL, the Index Universal Life, however, when the selected index performs well over the measured period, quite typically called a segment, your contract can experience an interest earning that is considered very attractive. If you could remember something like that, imagine telling that to a client. I think that sends a strong message without being so salesy. Okay, so the difference between the IUL and the 401k is that the IUL, we're taking money that's already been taxed, right? Post-tax contributions, they're going into the index strategy, okay? And if you're not familiar with the index strategy, I'm going to explain it here in a minute here, but you can see that your gains are locked in at a certain point before the market takes another dive. At the point the market takes a dive, you have what we call a protected floor. You'll participate in the gains. Now, there's some details when we talk about participating in the gains because participation changes depending on the product that we're delivering to the client. So think about that, learn about that. But you can see that whenever the market takes a ride and increases, you'll participate in that essentially, but you won't participate in the loss and so forth. At the end of the day, when you extract the money in the form of a loan, it's not taxed. Or if you pass away, the distributions to your beneficiaries are tax-free, right? However, keep in mind, there are some minute details depending on the tax situation, the circumstance of the family or the beneficiaries, okay? It could be taxed, so just something more to look into. But big picture, when you're delivering this to the client, here it is, post-tax, protected floor, and distributions in the form of a loan or in form of a death benefit is not taxed. But let's look at the rules that are tied to it. There's no 59.5 rule. Cash value of the IULs can be accessed at any time because it's already been taxed. It's money that's already been taxed, post-tax. Estate planning, coverage for life without paying for life. Earnings not counted toward income, depending on how this lays out. I had a client today that was very frustrated had nothing to do with the IUL, but he was just ranting and raving about, well, I got more money than my death benefit. I don't need that, man. If I die, I've got my money. My money's good. Well, I said, well, that's interesting that you say that. So you're saying that you'd rather use your personal assets to pay for your your death, your funeral, your final expenses. You want to use your personal assets. Wouldn't you rather just use the insurance assets to do that? I mean, what you put into the policy, the death benefit. And he goes, "Oh, you made a good point. Yeah. So what's the difference here? I'm trying to protect your physical and your financial assets while you want to go ahead and spend it." And what did he do? He kept his IUL. So concept again. No RMDs because it doesn't work with it's not a vehicle that gets governed by the government in that sense. It's immune to federal, state, and local income taxes. And the safety factor that's indicated here, investors who have been seriously burned by declining returns in the bond, equity, and real estate markets certainly understand the value of guarantee that their annual returns will never be a negative number. That's an amazing thing because I have clients, many of us have clients who we're right now doing our annual policy reviews, and you're looking at the losses or the challenges of the market. And it's very fun to tell them and let them know that, wow, by design, you've done very well. It might be a small interest rate or return of rate of return, but you did not hit a negative, right? The market actually did okay this year, but still, they didn't participate on the negative aspect of it. And I know my clients appreciate that. So think about that. That's the IUL mechanism, but I want to dive down into the basics of the index. So for many of us, it's a refresher, but for some of us, it might be, wow, okay, that's how it's done, okay? That's how it's delivered. The index basics, you participate in any period of the gain. If the market goes up, your money grows. Number two, you are protected from any period of loss. That protected floor I was telling you about. You get to sit out the bad years. I like that. Telling the client that, hey, you know what? You get to sit out the bad years, but you get to participate when the market goes up. All your gains are locked in. They can never be taken from you. And all the gains are compounded, tax deferred. All gains compound tax deferred. Hope you're capturing all that. So let's look at some animation here and why that works. Participate in any period with a gain. If the market goes up, your money grows. Like you can see here, starting point, and I'm gonna show a chart later on. So you have green as your account value, and then I'm showing in the black line the monthly average of the S&P 500 index. The market takes a dive. What did your account value do? It has a protected floor. It did not go down. It did not go up. In some cases, there are IUL products that the protected floor can be something as little as 1% or maybe 0.5%. It might not be an absolute zero, but there's still a protected floor nonetheless. In the market again, the market goes up. What happened to your account value? It went up as well. Okay. Let's move it forward. You never participated in the downside. You participated in the upside. The gains were locked and the gains compound tax deferred. And you can see the difference where you would be at had you just ridden the market entirely. Like this is the black line you can look at as the 401k. The green line you can look at as the IUL, excuse me. That's the difference. But let's look at this next slide here because this one really paints a good picture. I show this picture or slide to my clients quite often over the years. The fixed index versus the stock, how many works, protection and potential. And I would always ask my clients after explaining this to them in a nutshell, well, which line would you rather be? Would you rather be the red line or the blue line? What do you think they're going to tell you? They're going to tell you the blue line. Well, right now your money's in the red line, dude. Oh, you mean my 401k? Yeah, your 401k. I'm not here to bash your 401k. I'm just telling you there's volatility and you're subject to it. Now, if the same 100,000 was invested in 1999, this is where you would be based on historical performance of the 401k, of the IUL. So, and that's why I like to use that term historical performance because it's like, wow, that's data, right? That's historical data. You can read that in your IUL illustrations. If you guys have an IUL, make sure you read yours because you'll learn a lot from it. It's a good way to learn how to understand the IUL a lot better. But let's look at the side-by-side comparison, okay? the 401k, the 59.5 penalty. The 401k, you'll get the penalty. The IUL, no. So I put a little check there because that's the one I want to select. The required minimum distributions, the RMDs, 50% plus penalty and taxes on the 401k side, no RMDs on the IUL side. So another checkbox there, protection from stock market loss. The 401k, no, you're fully exposed. The IUL, on the other hand, you have the protected floor via index. The tax-free nature of it, well, 401k, no, you're subject to federal, state, and local taxes. The IUL, tax-free distributions and death benefit. Now, that goes into some level of detail, right? Because it's how you access the money. That's important to know. So, wow, I kind of ran through this pretty quick. I hope you got something out of this. I'll share this slide and just let me know if you want me to share this slide on our Slack group. And if you're not on Slack, you should be on Slack. And I hope you got something out of this training. All good?
Yeah, is this on the portal?
No, I made this tonight. I actually combined a few slides from one of my past sets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some nice slides.
Thank you. I know that it's either finalized. I think Jeff's on here, right? Jeff, are you there? Because maybe he can speak on the client presentation because it's.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, what's up, Dondi?
Hey, do we have a finalized client presentation that we're
almost? What we are using now could be used, but almost, not 100% yet. We have some they could use, but we're updating it.
There you go. But see, that's great to know because I think the team here is taking into the concept. And remember this is because the concept is a strong element to have wherever you go, because you're not always going to have your laptop. You're not always going to have your PowerPoint with you. If you can deliver the concept on a piece of paper, on a napkin, man, it'll do wonders. And sometimes it looks better doing that than bringing a big briefcase with a vacuum cleaner in it into a Starbucks, right? Now I'm just using the vacuum salesman kind of concept analogy here. You're going to scare people away, but if you know your stuff, and kind of like if someone was to talk to you about, if it was a car salesman and they would tell you about the ins and outs of buying a car, they probably wouldn't have to bring a briefcase and laptop. They'll probably just tell you off the cuff in the line of Starbucks. And sometimes folks appreciate that. So be ready. I hope you got something from tonight. Jeff, do you have any message that you'd like to deliver to the team before we wrap up?
No, I'm okay, Dondi. I think you're doing a great job, but thank everybody for being on tonight.
Excellent. So I'm going to go ahead and unleash the beast. You guys are all welcome to unmute yourself. If there's a technical question or something we can help you with, feel free to ask right now because we got some pros on the call. So go ahead, unmute yourself.
Dondi, thank you so much for the delivery. I loved it. I would just love if I can steal this presentation from you.
Of course.
Absolutely. Is it going to be posted on Slack?
Yeah, I'll put it on Slack.
Thank you very much.
I will do that.
Hey, Dondi.
Hey.
I have a question. It's not necessarily pertaining to what you just spoke of. It's regarding the licensure with Life and Health.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have to reinstate our fingerprints again?
No.
No? Okay. So just skip that step.
You're just adding a line to your current license.
Okay, cool. All right, so then I'll just do that then. Cool.
Nice. How far are you? Did you already pass it?
Oh yeah, I'm done everything. Yeah.
Oh, you passed. You got your health?
No. I thought you meant like the course. I'm done with the course. I'm scheduling my exam currently, so that's where I'm at right now.
Sweet, bro. Good job.
Yeah,
right.
Thank you.
Nice. Anybody else going after their health? No, I'll tell you right now, something opened up for me this week is I learned a lot from helping Kathy Santa Ana out, but that in turn helped one of my clients out in terms of a disability income insurance. And I told Jeff that I would just do whatever I can to become a pro at it. And it turns out that it's really it really works well with my client base because I do have some professionals. And one of my friends who's a dentist asked me about own occupation disability insurance, disability income insurance. And the premium on that's about $590 a month. So imagine as an agent that you can already calculate what your contract and your commissions would look like on that. But at the same time, if he ended up with some sort of disease or disability that he couldn't do his dentistry work because his hands were shaking, as an example, he could just manage the office and still get full disability and still get income from his practice because it's called an own occupation disability income insurance, which I find amazing. I think we should all have that ourselves because what if we just managed our own agency and not have to go sell because we just maybe hurt ourselves or something and we get full disability. On top of that, we still get the income of our agency. So get your health license.
Hey, Dondi.
Yep. Hey, Jack.
Oh, yeah, just for those that are working towards a health license, or if you've been a part of the Medicare training with UHC, United Healthcare, you guys know it's been really, really good. And I spoke with Matt Broman, our district market manager, and I kind of threw the question at him. I know that because I've finished the certification, but we're still going through the training. And I asked him, what if I came across someone and they knew that I was doing Medicare now, and they were ready to go right away and do something tomorrow? He said, yeah, if you're in the point where you're not as familiar with going through the process quite yet for the enrollment, they would help us and we would get the credit for it because we're already certified. So As soon as you're certified, then have your health care license, get certified, you can make money immediately if you know some people that need it. There's just some ins and outs, as we all know, part of the course to make sure you're marketing it the right way. But you can make money right away as soon as you're certified.
Well, I finished mine today. The thing that's a lot. But it's worth it, that's for sure. Yeah, Jack's
It's nerve-wracking.
absolutely right.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
thank you, Jack. Thank you.
You know what? Let me bring this up too, because I know after Vegas, the different teams were challenged to produce a certain degree of target. So I hope everyone's going after those goals because as our agency grows, the bigger your participation and the bigger your returns are, right? So if you have a target of say 300,000 annual premium value in the next 3 months, and you're a 50% contract, man, that's crazy. That's $150,000 in 3 months that you just made. So think about it in that sense, and serve your team, serve your clients.
Okay.
Anybody have anything? All good?
Sorry, Dondi, jumped on a little late.
Hey, Andrew.
So where are you, your chart there that had the IUL 401k comparison, are you updating that with recent data? So if someone, or are you just going strictly off that historical slide?
You're talking about the, let me see, the blue and the red?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that one's probably, that goes up to 2018.
Okay, that's fairly recent.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of shows, again, that concept, right? You remember that a few years ago, Andrew, you and I developed that spreadsheet that we could plug in a 401k figure?
Yep.
That might be an interesting to train on, just to show folks like what's happened. And we could take 2020 and 2019 and 2018 performance and run those numbers right through.
Yeah, you always have those people like, well, what happened? Where's last year's?
Yeah.
I always want to say because in years where the stock market does really well, then that IUL's not as attractive because people get caught up in the recent as opposed to the historical.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's where we would have to be able to explain it if we don't have it on a diagram.
Cool. Okay, thanks.
Good stuff. You know, what I'd like from everybody is, what do they want to learn on? What's an important topic to you? Maybe I'll just throw a poll on Slack to ask folks, what's important to you, so that we're more effective about what we're training on, what topics are important. But I still don't want to escape the fact that we have a lot of folks who are new and onboarding, and as a team, we should be teaching them the basics. And also, if that person is in your agency, my hope is that you're also gearing yourself up to teach them and train them the basics as well. I'm about to post this
And
up.
Dondi, would it help out if I know Bree's super busy, but she's the expert on getting appointed, and as you and I were talking the other day, and maybe it would help her out if she could do a Zoom like this and then kind of talk about it, so she's not repeating herself over and over.
Yeah, good idea.
You know,
Yeah,
it'd be helpful just to make sure we're all getting contracted with the right people that we should, and not leaving anybody out.
I'm all for it. I like that. Yeah. Anyone have any new business experiences that they would like to share with the team? Like, you know, what you wrote this week or recently? Did you learn something from it?
Yeah, I've got a couple that they're both they're starting out. They're young, but starting off with $100 a month in an IUL with Columbus, and then they're both going to do terms for $250,000. So they were worried that it wasn't enough, but they couldn't afford any more. And I said, look, you can do what you're doing there or do nothing, which is better. And so they knew that it was better to do something instead of nothing. I said that amount is great. You can always do something more down the road when you have more money. But so I got that going on. My daughter is engaged recently, and so I already trapped her husband to be in the corner and said, hey, you're marrying my daughter, so you're getting some insurance. so I got that coming up too. So
That's sweet.
Was that before or during the conversation of whether or not he could marry?
it was when it was real sweet. He asked for my hand, for my daughter's hand in marriage. So he did it the old Southern way, like I like it. And I said, great. So we got a couple of things we need to talk about.
That's funny.
So he's a golfer. So I said two things. First of all, you got to teach me how to play golf. And second of all, you got to better. And second of all, you need life insurance. It worked out good.
Wow. That's so cool.
That's one way to pay for the wedding, Jack.
Yeah, right. You know, I like that though, Jack. I think you're leveraging life changes, right? Milestones in life. You said a young couple, and that's always great. And then whether they're buying a house or having a baby, those life changes sometimes rate an insurance policy or increase of coverage.
Yeah.
Right. I read a nice article today about the importance of a client needs analysis. And this guy, he ignored it. He got so good at life insurance with his clients that he ignored it for, I don't know, a number of years. But when he reinstituted it in his practice, his income grew exponentially because he was now cross-selling more effectively. Like, he knew exactly what the lay of the land was for that client in terms of their levels of coverage, what their assets were, and stuff like that. So my message to the team here is that don't ignore the client needs analysis. I ran one earlier this week on a Monday night appointment that resulted in an additional $100,000 being rolled over. Yeah. So
don't leave any stone unturned.
No, really, there's some good, and there's you know, I don't want to get into the advanced market stuff too much, but I'm learning a lot about voluntary payroll deductions and stuff. If you read about that, VPDs, it's pretty interesting too. I have a client that's looking into that. That could be a big return of income return for agents. And also, I received good news today that the 401k that I set up for a client last like December, the Paychecks, the company that had their old 401k, has had 90 days to move the money into the new 401k, and the 90 days happened today. So I saw the rollover of all their monies go into the 401k. So I was really excited. That was great news this morning.
That's awesome.
It's crazy though what you can do with just a life insurance license, everyone, and then add to that a health license. So don't take yourself lightly.
Yeah, like to learn about what you helped Kathy with, you and Jeff, on the disability.
Oh, I'll share that in a nutshell. Mark approached me and said, "Hey, do you know disability? Can you illustrate it?" I said, "Yeah, I can illustrate it. I've done a few before, but I wanted to make sure that I was tracking it. So what I did was I contacted Emeritus, spoke to our internal wholesaler there, Marcia Little, and I said, this is what I want to do. This is my understanding. And she goes, yeah, you're tracking it just fine. Do you want me to run it for you? I said, yep, go ahead. And she walked me through the illustration, but she did it on her end, and she sent me the copies she made. And I learned a lot. So, and to paint a picture, it only took about 20 minutes rather than me sitting there for an hour trying to figure it out from scratch. And I know Kathy got her deliverable to her client pretty quick. I did try to call her back, Kathy. I'll try to call her again tomorrow. But hopefully it all works out for you. Wow, you guys are so quiet. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I'm going to wrap this up. Let me know when you guys want to have another virtual happy hour, because me, Nate, and Jack had a fun one last week. Those are good. Virtual happy hours. You get pretty sloshed.
As long as Nate's not telling jokes, we're in good shape.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Can't promise anything, Andrew.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Oh,
Depends
boy.
who's on, right? All right, everyone. Thank you for attending. Appreciate your support, and let's look forward to a bright week and see you next week.
Good night.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dondi.
Night.
You're welcome.
Good night, everybody. Good night.
Bye, guys.
Good night.
Bye-bye.